Hello, welcome to DIY is my happy place. I'm Amy, and today it's a little bit different than what I usually do. I'm a DIYer. I like to look at something, see if I can deconstruct it, turn it into something else. I'm a DIYer. But I've been very interested in crimes, I guess you could say. Like, I love to investigate crimes. Now, I'm just a online sleuth, so to speak. I'm not trying to become a true crime podcaster, YouTuber, any of that. That is not my intent here. But let me just say this. I have been obsessed over true crime for a while. And maybe it's my DIY brain. I love to try to figure out, solve the mysteries, the puzzles of whodunit, kind of a thing. Way back in the day, and this is going to show how old I am, I followed the O.J. Simpson trial like crazy. And then I followed different crimes throughout the years, the Jodi Arias trial, I don't know, a lot of them. But I've never been so intrigued as I have with the Lori Daybell, Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow, like that whole crime saga. Now, I've lived in Nebraska for the past 20 years, and I was at work the day that they took the helicopter ride and found the bodies for Lori and Chad, so of their kids. If you don't know what this is, I'm not here to try to explain what the trial is. You can look it up if you're interested in this. If not, click on something else. But if you want to know my thoughts about it, that's what I'm going to do today. Okay, so what I wanted to do was give you my perspective. I went to the trial yesterday of Lori Vallow. She's on trial for killing her 2 kids and conspiracy to kill her 5th husband's wife. So I'm not here to tell you the story. There's plenty of coverage out there. So if you're interested in what this is about, you don't know what it's about, go find it from a different link. I can put some links. But I just wanted to get on here and tell you from my perspective. I'm not a reporter. I'm not a crime talk podcaster. I'm just your average person who's kind of followed along with this, and I decided I wanted to go to the trial. So yesterday I went to the trial, and I want to tell you my thoughts about the whole entire process and where I stand on things. So you can put this in the for what it's worth category. So basically, the judge had decided there was going to be no cameras or photography in the courtroom. So all the trials that we've been following over the years, where we can just watch the trial live while it's happening, or at least listen to it, is not a possibility. They post the audio later in the evening of the day of the trial, or sometimes a different day, but it's hard to understand, it's hard to hear, it's not great. Anyway, I really wanted to go to this trial. Now, in order to go, what you do is you submit. There's only 400 people allowed in the courtroom at any given time, and a lot of those are tied in either with the defense or the prosecution or the families or whatever. So the actual public viewing area is very small. So in order to make it fair, the judge did this kind of lotto system where you sign in at 8 a.m. in the morning, you go in, you log in for the next court day, and you try to put your name in that you would like to visit, be in the court. I've been trying for 2 weeks to get in, and I finally got a ticket for yesterday. That's a whole process in and of itself, but I finally got a ticket. I didn't know if I'd be able to go in, and so every single day I just tried. Just every morning, 8 a.m., I was trying to get a ticket. And I actually got one, so it was kind of crazy. I had a 5-hour drive from where I am in order to get to the court. So as soon as I found out, and you don't find out right at 8 when you submit, it takes a few hours before they say, yes, you get a seat. And so, I don't know, by 1 o'clock I knew I was going, so I hurried and scrambled, got in the car, drove to Boise, Idaho. I live in the Salt Lake area. 5-hour drive later, I get to Boise, have a sister that lives there, stay the night with her, get up first thing in the morning, make my way to the courthouse. And that's what I'm going to talk about. I want to tell you what I found, what I learned, what I didn't know before, and my perspective. As it turns out, the day that I was going was a very significant day in the courtroom, and I'm going to give you my unbiased opinion about everything that I saw, heard, and witnessed. And I'm not really here to give you like the true facts. I'm not like a reporter from the, whatever. I'm not a reporter who tries to give unbiased opinions. I'm here with a biased opinion. So if you want to know my biased opinion, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so first of all, I had no idea how it works. I've never been in a courtroom other than for, like jury selection or something that I wasn't even called to be a juror. So I really know nothing, only from what I've seen on TV. So I didn't know what to expect. So I decided I better get there early. I know that the seating is tight. And so I was trying to get there at 8 o'clock. Well, I get to the courthouse in Boise, GPS'd it, get to the courthouse, and I can't figure out where to park. I'm driving all over. I don't know where to park. I'm trying to get into a garage that's permit only. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I finally found the right parking garage, got into the courthouse, and in order to go in, it's similar to going through security at an airport. And you have to, go through security, show your name, show that you have a ticket. Then you go up, and it's on the 4th floor, the courtroom, and there's a lot of courtrooms on that floor. There's a lot happening. It's a very big courthouse. So I get in there. Now there's a few people that I follow. I've followed Nate Eaton from East Idaho News this whole time, and to get updates. He's the one who was out there saying, where are the kids? Where are the kids? And he's the first one that found Lori and Chad in Hawaii when they were missing. And so I knew that, I'm like, oh, I want to meet Nate Eaton. That was like a big thing for me. I don't have a lot of people that are like celebrities that I want to meet, but Nate Eaton was kind of like the celebrity I wanted to meet. I also follow Lauren from Hidden True Crime. So I thought, oh, that'd be cool if I saw her. But then other than that, it's just kind of your basic news people that you see on TV on nightly news that were there. There's a lot of people there. So anyway, I go in, and basically the courtroom is set up in a format, and maybe I'll put a little thing in there to show how it is set up. But it wasn't what I expected, because it's not like how you see in the movies. When I think of a courtroom, this is what I visualize. Tables on both sides, prosecutors, defense, judge. Like, this is the courtroom that I would visualize, but that is not how this room is set up. There's a table on one side with Lori Daybell and her 2 attorneys. Then there's a table kind of in an L shape that has the prosecuting attorneys, and they're all lined up along a long table. And then on the right of them is where the jury sits. And then, of course, the judge in front where the witnesses are and whatnot. So that's different than what I would have visualized. Then there are 3 different sections of benches. And I don't know, they go 3, 4, 5 rows back. And this is where I sat. And then in this circle area, that's the juror that I call the sheriff. Okay, now I'll continue on with my story. And once you go in, you sit down, and then they give you all these announcements about what you can do and what you can't do. There is obviously no videoing, no pictures, and no sound. Like, you have to be so quiet, because there are jurors that have complained that there was too much noise, like people are typing or whatever, and it's too much noise, so they want complete silence in there. They even went as far as to say, if you have a piece of candy you want to put in your mouth while you're in there, unwrap it before the jurors come in so they don't have to hear wrappers, So I knew, like, you got to be silent while you're in there. This is something that I knew. And I knew that the lunch break was going to be kind of short. I knew that I'd been watching these things. There's not a lot of places to eat, so I packed my own lunch, put it in the car. I was ready to go. So I go in, I sit down, and I had decided that I wanted to sit on the side of the jury, because I have never in my life witnessed a trial where you get to watch the jurors and their reaction to what's happening. I mean, you can always just sort of assume what the jurors are doing, but never, other than movies, do you ever get to see how the jurors are reacting, thinking, body language, whatever. And I'm really intrigued by that. Also, if you're sitting on the side where the jury is, Lori's on completely the opposite side, but from that angle, from that vantage point, you can see her face. And I really wanted to see her reactions to whatever was being said too. So those were the two things. I wanted to see the jurors, I wanted to see Lori's reactions. So I sat on that one side. So I sit down, I'm looking around, and I can see. So you can text and you can be on a computer. But if they said, if you're texting like this, that's fine. But if your phone comes up like this, like you're just texting like this, they will take your phone away, because then they're going to assume you're trying to take a picture or video. So you have to keep your phones flat, and then again, no noise. You can have water bottles, even soda, and like candy as long as it's quiet, like a mint or something in your mouth. But otherwise, no food, no anything else. So, okay, I sit down, and it wasn't as packed as I had expected. I assumed because it was so hard to get a ticket that it was going to be like just elbow to elbow. No, they keep it pretty thinned out. And so I sat down. I didn't know a single person in there. And so the trial starts. And they bring in the jurors. And the first thing I noticed once the jurors are seated, so in this particular case, there's 18 jurors, 6 of which are alternates, but none of them know which ones are alternates. They're all there. And then eventually, I don't know if they're going to do a draw or whatever, when it's finished, the trial's over, then they'll tell them who's the real jurors and who's the alternates, so that everyone is taking notes as if they're the real jurors, right? So anyway, the jurors all come in, sit down. The first thing I notice, and it's quiet, I mean quiet in there, because we were just told, and there's all these rules of etiquette. So everyone's just like totally being silent, and the jurors sit down, and I noticed there was a juror that's on the far end. So literally, I mean, I can practically reach out and touch him. Not really, but he's 2 rows ahead of me, you know, where the juror ends up. And the juror that's on the end, I'm just gonna make my opinions. Again, these are my opinions, don't sue me. I'm just saying my opinions. And I've not heard anyone say their opinions about the jurors, so I'm gonna be that one. And we'll see if I get shut down over this. But I think that this guy must have some sort of audio sensory issues. And I understand that. I have a granddaughter who does, like, sounds are just very irritating to her. So I completely understand that concept. But literally any noise. I mean, like, you just adjust in your seat, and it's wooden benches, and it makes this little tiny creaking noise, and he would just like instantly turn and then glare. And it was the kind of thing that's kind of like way too long of staring and glaring for that infraction, in my opinion. I was like, what is up with this guy? So everyone's just like, high alert, be quiet. You don't want to get kicked out because you adjusted your seat too loud, you know? Unbelievable. So I'm like trying to be still as a statue. I mean, literally, even somebody would move their arm, and the sound of their coat, like rubbing against their coat, he would look. And he's just like, and then this great big long scary stare, and I'm like, okay, this is the juror. Now, I get it. You're supposed to have jurors that are amongst the, you know, like random whatever, but this guy, I'm going to call him sheriff. He's the sheriff of the jury, and he's going to keep an eye on the courtroom. I'm like, okay. So note to self, silence, silence, silence. So I'm sitting there listening, and lo and behold, it has to be the most traumatic day of testimony yet. It was yesterday, which was all about the remains. It was awful. Oh, so hard. And I've been listening to a lot of it already, most of it, almost every single word. And somehow when I wasn't in the courtroom, I was able to listen to it almost like I'm watching a movie or a TV show. I know it's real, but it hasn't like dug down deep into my heart and just broken my heart. Like, I feel like my heart's broken, but not to the extent. So once I started listening, I was like, oh, this is heavy. And yesterday was when we found out that JJ I don't even want to talk about it. I'm not going to be the one to talk about it. It was bad, and it was very upsetting. Let me just say that. So at the break, they have a morning break. I go out, and I was just trying to get a hold of myself. Went to the bathroom, and I could hear somebody and I don't know who people are. I don't know how they're tied in, like how their family or connections. There's a lot of them that I don't know. But there was a lady who left and ran into the bathroom and was just weeping and wailing. I never could figure out who that was, but you know what? It could have been me. I was so upset. That was awful, and I'm not related. I don't know any of them. But it was just awful. So there's that. So my hat's off to the jurors for having to deal with it. Now, as it turned out, the judge did not allow the courtroom, like I guess I'm going to call myself a visitor, like the visitors in the courtroom, to see the actual photos of the children. And I'm so glad I didn't, because just hearing about it was devastating to me. But the jurors and obviously the attorneys and everybody, they did see it, and they said that family members, if they wanted to see them, to petition, and he would let the victims basically could see them. And yeah, so I didn't see those. Okay, so then, this is the other thing. So this lady that comes and sits right next to me, she literally sat on my purse. There was room. I mean, I don't want to be that gal that's complaining, but anyway, she immediately falls asleep. And I mean, she starts snoring. Now talk about noise. She's snoring through the whole morning part of the thing for like 2 hours. And everyone kept looking at me. I'm like, it's not me. It looks like it's going to be me, but it's not me. It's her right there. She's snoring. So then, what are you going to do? So anyway, after the break, as we were leaving, she went out first, and another couple that was sitting in front of me turned around and said, I can't even hear. Her snoring is so loud. And I said, I know. And they said, let's report it. And I said, okay. But I knew I was running to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom, get done with the break, come back in, and I got into the courtroom. I was one of the first ones in. I made sure I was the first one so I could go talk to the bailiff and say, this lady's snoring throughout the trial. And so I went up, and I was talking to the bailiff and told him what happened. And he's like, what? You've got to be kidding me. Okay, I'll keep an eye on that. Well, nobody else was in the courtroom yet except for the bailiff, some of the security, and Rob Wood. He's the prosecuting attorney. So he was right. Like, I was face to face with Rob Wood, but talking to the bailiff, because they were talking to each other when I went and told him. So then he's like, oh man, I guess I was too boring this morning. And we all laughed. And I have to say that when the attorneys or the judge can make some little comment that's funny, it's such a huge relief, because it was so heavy. I mean, even the slightest little thing that could be sort of interpreted as like a little light-handed is so needed in a situation like that. I will say, I mean, there were a couple of times, I can't even think of what it was, but like maybe the judge would say something, then everyone would just laugh, because your emotions are here. So it's like, oh, this is supposed to be funny. You're just so happy to let it out a little bit. So that's my personal feeling of that. So anyway, sleeping, snoring lady didn't come back, so that was good. So then we sit down, do the rest of the morning thing. Horrible, horrible, awful. You can go listen to it if you want to. And then it was lunch break. So I go to my car, and I'm like starving, and I had packed myself lunch, went to eat, couldn't eat. My stomach was churning because of all the testimony that I heard. Oh, it was just so awful. So I just decided I'm going to go back, and I want to meet Nate Eaton. So I got to meet Nate Eaton. I introduced myself to him, and he was so nice, just like he is on East Idaho News. I mean, he's such a great guy. I introduced myself to Lauren, told her I was a gem, meaning I follow her podcast and YouTube, channel, and she was so sweet too. And she was literally sitting right in front of me. And my sister asked me, hey, have you seen Gigi? And I'm like, I don't know who that is. And she's like, oh, that's a podcaster I follow. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know. But anyway, so I'm sitting right behind Lauren, and I was like, oh, celebrity. It was just fun watching her. Okay, so here's a question that my sisters ask me when they're like, how are these people tweeting everything as it goes? Are they getting like transcripts as it's happening, or how are they staying up with everything? So here's the answer to that. They are literally just typing as fast as they can on their phones or on a computer. And there's quite a few reporters in there that are doing that. But it's not as, I mean, it's hard. It's hard. I was trying to text a few things to my husband and about what was happening. And you know, it's you have to really concentrate to listen to what they're saying, text it, and still be watching what's happening. Like, I would be exhausted if I was doing that every day. My hat's off to them, because I did it for one day and it wasn't even like tweeting out to the world, and it was exhausting. But anyway, the way that they can keep up and keep time stamps and all that is like a question will be asked by the prosecutor, or say an attorney, and then the answer will happen. So you can be typing what's happening there, and then they might be looking for a photo to go with the next question. So there's time, there's breaks in between the actual testimony, so you have time to catch up. So, I mean, it is possible, and they are doing it. I mean, that's what they're doing. It's an amazing thing, and my hat's off. Again, my hat's off to reporters. They make it look so easy, but it is not easy, that's for sure. Okay, so then after the morning, we go in, or after lunch, we go in, and right as I was about to sit down, I could feel my stomach start to growl, because I haven't eaten. And I'm like, oh no, my stomach's gonna growl, and I'm gonna get dagger eyes from Yohu, sheriff, and they're gonna kick me out of here. So I'm like, oh, I gotta hurry and unwrap, and I had this little mint in my purse, so I'm like, I gotta hurry and unwrap that, because they were calling the jurors in. I'm like, I gotta get that unwrapped before they come, pop it in my mouth. So I'm just starting to suck on this little mint while the jurors are coming in, and there's no noise because everybody's walking. And lo and behold, I get one of those, you just barely started sucking on a mint tickle in my throat, which causes me to start coughing. Then once I start coughing and I'm trying not to cough, it gets worse and worse. And I thought I was gonna die. I'm like, I have to have either a huge cough or some water, and I didn't bring my water bottle with me. And I had decided, well, I'm not gonna drink water in the afternoon because I have to, run to the bathroom and I wanna be talking to people. So I didn't bring a water bottle. All I had was this mint, which was actually what caused me to start coughing, and I was losing it. And they had told me ahead, told all of us, you can leave the courtroom at any time, but if you leave, once those doors are shut, you can't come back in till the next break. And I'm like, I drove 5 hours to be here, and I'm gonna have to go out and cough and then not be able to come back in. Like, I'm gonna miss this. I was just like, by then my eyes started watering. Then my mascara is messing up. I never thought I would be that gal. So I'm just trying to hold my cough in. And then people around me, they were so nice, and they started saying, hey, in fact, one lady right in front of me, she literally gave me her water bottle that was half drunk. And I was that desperate that I just started drinking it. Like, I don't know her from Adam. I'm a germaphobe, but I wanted to be in there, and I just started drinking it. And then somebody else handed me a mint or a cough drop, but it was wrapped in paper, but handed me a cough drop, and I'm just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'm drinking water, trying to get well, then it gets quiet. So I can't even unwrap this cough drop, because every time I would just go try to unwrap it, then people would just be like, the sheriff is gonna get you. So I'm trying to unwrap this cough drop and holding this cough, and my eyes are watering because I'm holding this cough, but I made it through that session. So then before the afternoon break, as soon as it was time, jurors leave, the judge leaves, and then you can walk out in this break and everyone starts talking. Now, I'd become friends with the people that I was sitting next to. There were 4 of us in a row, and we all were talking about it. And then a couple of ladies behind me. And then I just started saying thank you to the lady who gave me her water and the lady who gave me her cough drop. Well, we go out into the hallway area, and as I'm walking out, I'm like, oh, I think that's Melanie Boudreau Pulowski, however you said the name, the niece. And she hasn't testified yet. And I'm like, I think she's over there. And so I'm talking to these 4 ladies, or actually 6 ladies that I don't really know, and even the one who gave me the cough drop and a couple other people anyway. I'm just like, is that Melanie Boudreau behind me? Now, you have to realize in the foyer area, there's a lot of courts going on. We're not the only game in town, and there's different hearings and there's different things. So there's a lot of people that aren't tied with this trial that are standing out there. But that lady, she looked up, but it was just like the back of her head. And I'm like, what do you guys think? Is that Melanie? And everyone's looking. We're like taking a picture. You can take pictures out there. Taking a picture over my shoulder. I'm like blowing it up, trying to see. And we're all just talking. Well, come to find out, the lady who gave me the cough drop, who was like, I'm not sure if it's Melanie, and we're talking. Well, that was the podcaster, I think her name's Gigi, that from Truth, Lies, and Alibis. She was awesome. So then we just started talking, had so much fun. So I got to talk to Lauren, I got to talk to Gigi, I got to talk to Nate Eaton, and we're just having this great time, and we're like, oh, no, it's not, and it wasn't her. She was for some other case, you know. So it wasn't her, but then we all start talking, and we were bonding, and we were just like, what do you think about this? Do you think, because you can talk, I mean, we can talk about it. We're out in the hall, and we're not around jurors, and we're not around witnesses, so we can just talk. So we were sitting there chatting, and all of a sudden, the bailiff comes over and says, right to me, and he's kind of like taps me on the shoulder, and he said, hey, will you four ladies, so the four of us that were sitting on a row, will you follow me? And we're like, okay. And he goes, yeah, you four. And he points, 1, 2, 3, 4. You four, come with me. We're going to go back. And we went over to where it's the secure area where you don't talk about things. And it's like right in front of the court doors. We're like, we're in trouble. What do we do? What do we do? Well, during the during the time of the court, one of our phones out of the four of us, and I do know which one it was, one of them had a little tiny beep, just a little beep, like if you were gonna start recording. That's what it sounded like. So we got reported as somebody on our row was recording. So basically they're like, we got word, they heard a beep on your row, can you all show us your phones? So we had to like open up our phones and show I don't even know what the app is. This is how, it's an app that you can just record audio. Well, I just got a new phone. I've never even used that app and whatever. So I was like, yeah, go ahead, look at my phone. So he looks and he goes, yeah, your app isn't even downloaded on your phone. And he does the other ones and then, you know, each one, and nobody. We were all clean. We didn't get booted. I'm like, oh, I almost got booted from the Lori Vallow. And he's like, well, sometimes people can just like bump their phone and it'll do that beep. I don't know. I'm no whiz, but he basically said, okay, you four are good to go. And then it was time for everyone to come back in. So everyone who was out there in the foyer, they saw us getting like it was like going to the principal's office. So then as people were coming in, they're like, oh, what happened? And we're like, oh, they thought we were recording, but luckily we could prove we weren't recording. And the whole time I'm thinking, why would someone record? Because the recording, I think if you're just going to do audio recording, the recording is public in a few hours. So why would you record? But I guess people do. They try, and it certainly wasn't us. So anyway, we go in for the afternoon court. Oh, and Kate and Larry, they weren't there in the morning, but they came in the afternoon. I see them sitting there. Oh, I just feel so much compassion for them and all that they're going through, and the other family members. Oh, it was something. And then by the time it was time to go, I was like, okay, I've been here since 8. I think it got over around 3:34, and I got in the car and drove 5 hours back home. And I have to say, the whole time I was decompressing. I was like, that was the most emotional, hard thing. I can't even imagine. So there's my 2 bits. That's what I have to say. If you have any questions, let me know. See ya.